Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Ham Radio. Today I'm joined by Josiah, Sai Russell, WD5JR, a young operator with deep family roots in ham radio and a fast-growing footprint of his own. From POTA activations and his role as Oklahoma POTA mapping representative to contesting and learning CW, Sai represents the next generation leaning in and moving forward. Q5 is proudly supported by Icom, building radios that inspire operators to push the boundaries of what's possible. Welcome to the show, Sai.
Thanks for having me.
So do you prefer to go by Josiah or Sai?
I started going by Sai just a few years ago, right when I started getting into ham radio, especially Morse code. Josiah was just too long to send, so I started to go by Sai, and it's quick and easy.
I love the reasoning. I'm going to call you Sai then. It fits. So Sai, you and I first met in Turks and Caicos. You were down there with your family. I actually met Les KI5 GTR on that same trip. You guys were tearing it up on the airways doing POTA activations. Tell me about that particular trip.
Yeah, so that was lots of fun. We met Les back in 2021, I think it was. We were down activating Turks and Caicos, and he sent my dad an email, and he said I was going to go travel to some other island. And we said, well, why don't you come with us sometime? And then it turned into a thing where we met him a few times here in Arkansas, and then he came to our house and stayed a few times. And we went down there together and activated, I think, for a week and a half, 2 weeks. Almost every day we did activations, and I had a blast hanging out with him all the time when we were down there.
Well, I want to hear more about your travels with radio gear, but let's go back to the beginning. When did you get licensed, Sai, and what was the motivation?
So I got licensed back in 2021, in I think February 2021. My dad was talking about ham radio. He's always been ham radio his whole life since he was, I think, 14. And he mentioned it back to me in probably 2019 and gave me a book, and I had no desire to read a book about something I didn't understand. So he mentioned it in 2021, brought out his handheld, showed me a little bit about it, and I was hooked. So I took my technician license here with a club here in town and never did anything with it. 10 meters wasn't open when I tried getting on. I didn't have a desire to talk to people on repeaters. And then we went to Florida, traveling back and forth quite a bit to Florida, and we stopped at a park one afternoon, and we activated on 10 meters, and that's when it all started, was on that day in Florida. And now it's a hobby that I love so much and enjoy.
So Sai, as you said, your dad's a ham radio operator, but I believe your entire family is licensed. Is that right?
It is. My dad, my mom, my brother, my uncle, my cousin, my great-granddad, or my great-granddad, granddad, grandmother, and great-uncle are all hams as well.
I love that. So ham radio is a conversation all the time then.
It is. Every time I talk to my grandparents, it's always have questions about ham radio, how my granddad did stuff, and he's always asking me what I'm doing now on radio. So
it sounds like you were licensed 5 years ago. How old are you now, Sai?
Just 18.
And what have you seen in your interactions with other people in your peer group? Do they get interested at all about ham radio when you're talking about it, or what's their reaction?
I see more and more people are getting into it now. I have a few friends here in town that they saw me get into ham radio, and they took their license, and one of them, he upgraded to his general just a year or so back, and has helped us with some contests before. And I even got my little cousin, who is 8 years old. She's getting into ham radio and already does CW, 8 years old, and she's going to take her license, her test before too long, hopefully. So definitely a lot. I think youth nowadays are getting into ham radio, and it's great to see.
So tell me more about that. What was it that interested you about ham radio? You already said that your dad was involved, and I get that, but you also said that you weren't interested in reading a book. You weren't interested in making repeater contacts. So what was it about ham radio that finally hooked you?
I think it was what really got us going was back when I took my license test. I had my tech, and I upgraded general. And in 2022, my mom got diagnosed with cancer, so we were back and forth to Florida a lot, and we were down there, and it kind of gave us an escape, I guess, when we weren't between treatments, to do something that just kind of became something we kind of brought our family together. But since then, God's healed her, so we've had great travel since then as well with ham radio, and it's kind of brought our family together a little bit more, and it's connected with me and lots of our people that I really enjoy still talking with today.
Well, first of all, sorry to hear that about your mom, but also great to hear that she's done better. What was it about Parks on the Air that caused you and your dad and your brother to start doing activations?
I think it's mostly just being in the outdoors. I love hunting. I love fishing. Anything outside is what I love doing. And being able to take the radio into the field definitely got me going as well. And I think kind of it's more of like a self challenge, and I wanted to become so good in POTA like this, get the most parks hunted in my state or something like that. So kind of challenge it drives me a little bit here and there to do more and more. And then obviously meeting more people in POTA, and I've met so many great friends in POTA. A lot of them like Scott, K3SDM. I've met him through POTA, and Les. Some great people like that as well.
So the themes that you're talking about are pretty prevalent in a lot of my interviews. The idea that you can be outside doing activations is so much fun. You're also talking about the community aspect, which I know most of the hams I talk to really get into that. But you're also edging into something that I would call competitive. You want to rack up the number of parks you go into. So tell me about that. How many parks have you activated?
So I've activated 156, I think, unique parks. I got over 400 activations total. But there's not a lot of parks in our area, so I mostly stick to hunting quite a bit. And I think I got over 5,300 unique parks hunted as of now.
So let's go back to Turks and Caicos. It's not for the faint of heart to put gear together into your luggage and travel that far away. Did your dad drive that process? Tell me about that. How did you coordinate that and make sure your gear got there safely? And what did you bring?
So the first time we went down, we've been going to Turks and Caicos for I think since I was born. So we were always down there. And then when we started going 2021, they started to add parks down there. And we just like, hey, there's actually parks we can activate while we're on vacation. So our first trip down there, we took our Icom 7300 and just a 17-foot whip with a coil, and that was our first activation. And we activated, since down we've activated 4 Atnos, so they've never been activated before. We were the first ones to activate. And we just took an Apache case and packed it in some foam, and hopefully nothing would break when we were going down there. And it was kind of nerve-wracking for the first time. We read through all the rules, contacted the guy who's in charge of licensing, and he kind of gave us some insights on what we need to do and how to set up for some of this stuff down there.
And who was that guy that helped you with the licensing?
I think his name was, I can't remember, his Jim, Kilo 4, Quebec, Papa Charlie, I think it was.
Quebec, Papa Lima.
Papa Lima, there it is.
Yeah, Jim has been a great contact for myself. I was down there at his house. That's when I met you operating the WPX contest, and just what a great guy. And even though he sold his house, it's interesting that he has held on to that licensing responsibility. So message to anybody who might want to travel to Turks and Caicos and operate ham radio, contact Jim, K4QPL, and he'll hook you up with the necessary license to operate. So over time, when you kept returning to Turks and Caicos, did you see that change, that process change? Were you bringing different equipment? Were you activating differently?
Not really. We just always use most of the time a 17-foot whip when we're down there, and we're actually heading back down there next week, and we're going to try bringing a Elecraft KX2, so we can do handheld, on the beach and stuff like that. But most of the time we just keep the same equipment, 7300. It's kind of hard to beat, we have a tuner in it as well, so we don't have to pack extra gear. And we have brought in-feds. We have operated from our balcony before, just playing around with different types of antennas. And but for the most part, the setup stays the same.
So one of the things, Sai, that I mentioned in the intro was your role as the mapping representative for your home state. Tell me how you got involved with that.
So I think back in 2022, they were starting to start POTA. They're going to start adding parks before too long. And I reached out, or I looked for the map rep, and I think he was somewhere up in Missouri at the time, and I reached out to the head, John Ford, and I said, I live here in Oklahoma, and I would love to, take over if you guys need help and, be more local in this area. And next thing you know, I'm the Oklahoma POTA map rep, and that's been a lot of fun too, getting to meet some great people here in the state, and also gives me a chance to get out and activate more parks too, so I enjoy it.
Well, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, being a map rep is a lot of responsibility. I'm sure you get a lot of emails. How have you seen that role transition over time? I
have got quite a bit of emails. I've been asked to come to some of our local hamfests and give presentations, speeches, and I enjoy, getting some great people across the state here in Oklahoma. And like I said, it's a neat thing is getting to go see these actual places that you get to add in POTA. These places I research, spend a lot of time researching hours into see this park and qualify, and then getting to add it and go see that place and person.
Tell me your overall impression of Parks on the Air and where you'd like to see it go in the years ahead.
I just like to see it keep on growing. I know it's not going to be a problem with POTA right now, and it's really helped me, see other ways to get more comfortable, at least on talking on the air, and it's kind of getting to contesting now is where POTA helped me go from there. But just to keep seeing it grow, and I think it's a great way to get younger people into it, and it's definitely great for people that are new to the hobby as well.
Sai, I love this intersection between Parks on the Air and contesting. And I often tell this story that I believe that active age in particular, when you're out in the field and you've set up, and you've experienced this in Turks and Caicos, and you might put 100 plus contacts in the log or more, and you just get really used to navigating through pileups and get pretty good at it. Was it that skill set that led you to contesting, that combined with your obvious competitive nature?
It was definitely doing the Parks on the Air in Turks. We would sit there at a park for 3 hours, and there's three ops when we're doing it most of the time. Me, my dad, and my brother, and I, and we get 250 contacts in the log, and it's kind of fun, going quick. And then I started to do some slow speed CW contest, hour-long, sprints like that, and then those two things kind of just got me really excited to start contesting and competitive.
So tell me more. What other contests have you been involved with to date?
So this past weekend, or 2 weeks ago, we had the North America sideband, and we did that together from our home station with my uncle. He came over and helped us participate. And then the week before that, we did the CW, North America CW, and Les from Arkansas came down, and we did 3 ops on that and 2 radios. And I think we placed down in 11th place. So definitely, we're still learning. I think between my Les, my brother, and I, we've only been doing CW for 2 to 3 years, so we're kind of happy where we placed on that as well. And then doing these sprints, and then kind of winter field day as well. We always kind of take that kind of competitively too, and just did that this past weekend. And as of now, we placed got the most QSOs out of anybody in the contest, or the Winterfield Day contest.
So, Sai, you mentioned that you're still learning. I think that's the words you used. What are you learning as you contest?
I'm just trying to get better, trying to figure out, software is obviously better. I'm trying to get into SO2R a little bit now as well, and always trying to get, improve my CW skills as well to improve, and there's always something to improve on that. But, just trying to improve certain things like that, get better at searching and pouncing, better at running a pile up and things like that. So
Sai, you're 18, so I presume you'll be graduating soon. What are the next steps for you?
So I do graduate before this summer, and I've already been working in part-time in the oil field for 2 years now, and then I'll just take that full-time once I graduate.
And do you think you'll keep the ham radio hobby going?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something that's going to be a part of me, I think, for the rest of my life.
Well, that's great to hear. And so tell me more about your view on ham radio and what we can do as participants in this hobby to continue to grow it.
I think just be kind of some people need to be more accepting, I guess, of some ideas, change, and I think it's just one of those things. If you keep on showing youth about how neat it is to do things like that, satellites, and especially CW, people thought CW was a dying thing until, it's always been something, but more recently it's gotten, in my opinion, more popular. But just being a good advocate for ham radio, and always be willing to let somebody, either operate into your call sign as third party, or just even let them come to your shack and see what it's all about.
And Sai, will you be in Dayton this year? I know you and your family were there last year. Do you plan on returning?
Yes, we will be there in Dayton this year, and then hopefully in Huntsville as well.
Any speaking engagements there? I think it was you who were speaking at one of the forums, correctly?
It was my brother and I both spoke at the youth forum last year in Dayton, but haven't been asked for anything yet.
Well, I'll be looking for you for sure. Q5 will have a booth again. It's going to be associated with DX Engineering. I'm really excited about having that presence. So please look me up when you come.
Definitely.
My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. I've been talking to Sai, WD5JR. You'll see him in Dayton if you're attending. If not, you will definitely hear him on the air activating parks, hunting parks, but also doing contests. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.